Hello again. All right, I am back to finish reading chapter 11 of The White Giraffe by Lawrence St. John. And I'm here with Pumpkin right there that you guys met in the last video, and Spice behind them. Or her. I guess I don't really know. I think it's a boy. I don't know. Pumpkin and Spice. That's who those guys are. Alright, so I stopped reading right here on page 69 with that little flower thing. And they were just getting ready to go into Kirstenbosch Botanical Gardens. And that is the rooster over there. He's about yay big, but he is very, very loud. At the Kirstenbosch Nature Study School, smiling staff greeted them with fruit juice and a lecture on the botanical gardens, which had been established in 1913 and were spread over a massive 1,300 acres. After that, they were split into 3 groups of 8. 2 of the groups were to explore Kirstenbosch with an education officer, but Martine's group, which consisted of 4 members of the 5-star gang, everyone except Peter, plus Sherilyn, a big sporty boy called Jake, and Ben, was to be led by Miss Faulkner, who had done a special course at the center to enable her to guide them. Their first stop was to be the Fragrance Garden. They set off over the manicured lawns where tourists picnicked and guinea fowl hovered hopefully for tidbits, crossing a bubbling brook along the way. It looked innocent enough, but it had a brutal and bloody history and as an escape route of slaves in the days when the British ruled the Cape Colony. Legend has it that one slave who escaped here was eaten by a leopard, and all that was found of him was his skeleton, Miss Faulkner told them. Ever since then, this has been known as Skeleton Stream, and the area above it as Skeleton Gorge. The older forest beside it is called Donker Gat, Afrikaans for dark corner. She added for effect, many a child has been lost up there. An echo passed through Martine, a sort of chill. Her eyes followed Miss Faulkner's pointing finger up the forbidding slopes of Table Mountain, where forests of yellow wood and ironwood sprawled in a dense green carpet. The scene looked familiar, as if she'd seen it before in a photograph. Goosebumps rose on her arms. Less than an hour ago, the sky had been clear, with only a few wisps of clouds over the mountain. But already the day was turning ugly. They had been warned about the unpredictability of the weather. For no particular reason, Martine suddenly felt apprehensive. The fragrance and medicinal gardens were wonderlands of aromatic plants and healing herbs, but Martine felt it difficult to concentrate. Much like me right now with the rooster going to town. Alright. At the dell, they drank from an ice-cold spring in a bird-shaped bath, and then it was on to the what is that? Cycad? I don't know. Whatever it is. Amphitheater, where Miss Faulkner explained that the palm-like cycads, we're just going to call them cycads, I don't know what it is, were actually living fossils that were around in the time of dinosaurs. So maybe if I learned some history, we'd be alright right now. Some of them are 200 million years old, she said. Can you believe that? 200 million years old. The final stage of their journey was the Fynbos Walk on the lower slopes of the mountain. Fynbos was one of the world's 6 plant kingdoms and was unique to the Cape region. So I might be saying that word wrong too. I don't know. I guess I need to learn some stuff. Sorry, guys. It consisted of heathery type bushes like the bright red fire heath, silver trees, reeds, lilies, and pink velvety proteas, which were South Africa's national flower. Sprawling alongside the winding paths in a blaze of color, it made for a spectacular display. When they reached the Protea Garden, Miss Faulkner showed them the orange-headed nodding pincushion flower, a favorite nectar of the sugar birds. Just then her beeper went off. She checked it with a grimace. the wind whipping her curly hair. "Okay, everyone, pay attention," she called. "One of the other children has suffered an allergic reaction to a bee sting, and I'm urgently needed back at the Nature Study School. It would be a shame for you to miss out on seeing the sugar birds feed, so I'm going to trust you to stay here quietly and wait for them. Under no circumstances is anyone to go wandering off. Luke and Lucy, as prefects, I'm putting you in charge. If I'm not back in the next 20 minutes, follow the signs to the concert area and I'll meet you there." As soon as Miss Faulkner was out of sight, mayhem erupted. No one apart from Martine seemed to have the slightest interest in seeing the sugar birds feed. There were a few other visitors in the Protea garden, but the noise of the children soon drove them away. Martine decided that now would be a good time to try to talk to Ben. She walked through the flower beds in search of him, but he was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Ben?" she asked Lucy. "Who knows?" the blonde girl said disinterestedly. "Probably hugging a tree or something." Cheryl interrupted. "What's happening to the sky?" 8 heads tipped upward. The wispy clouds had become a vaporous gray blanket. It had consumed the top half of the mountain and was sliding furiously down the cliffs toward Kirstenbosch, driven by the wind. But the really creepy part was the sky, which boiled with an odd violet light. It looked less like a storm was approaching than some weather phenomenon, like a tornado or a tempest. "Please, can we go back now, guys? It's freezing," whined Sherilyn. But the prospect of extreme weather had added to the atmosphere of silliness, and the other children started chasing moths through the Protea garden. The sound of marimbas, conga drums, and African voices rising in exquisite harmony came to them on the gusting wind. The band had started playing. A flash of memory seared Martine's brain. It was the music from her dream. She was sure of it. That explained it. That's why Kirstenbosch was so familiar. Her dream was becoming reality, and this was the exact scene. The looming gray mountain, the plum-colored light, the swallowing cloud, and the children chasing moths through the proteas. Any minute now, someone would go, "Hey, look what I found." "Hey!" Luke was standing by a stack of wooden stakes of the sort used to create fences. His voice was excited. "Look what I found!" The others rushed to his side, Martine included, although warning bells were clanging like a 60-piece orchestra in her head. An Egyptian goose lay on the ground. It was a large bird with reddish-brown and white wings, but one of those wings hung broken, and its webbed feet curled limply at its breast. It stared up at the peering faces with one red eye. Though it flapped feebly, it was unable to move. Luke scooped the bird up and it honked hoarsely in protest. "I bet it's been attacked by a fox. Miss Faulkner said there were foxes around." "Put it down, Luke," Lucy snapped at her brother. "It's probably diseased." "Yeah, Luke, it's dirty," agreed Jake. Martine tried to speak, but no sound came out. "Maybe we should put it out of its misery," Luke suggested. "You know, hit it over the head or something." Jake laughed. "How about a braai, a nice little barbecue? We can put it on a spit. Should be enough to go around." Wow. Martine found her voice. She said tearfully, "Please, leave it alone. Please don't hurt it." "Aw, poor little English girl," jeered Luke, "crying like a baby. You want it? Here, have it. Catch!" He launched the goose at Martine, who flailed blindly for the brown blur and, unprepared for the weight of it, tripped and toppled over backward. Somehow she managed to hold on to it through her fall. She struggled into a kneeling position with the goose, still cradled in her arms, her face flushed scarlet with anger and embarrassment. The other kids burst out laughing. My phone might cut off here in a minute, but I will still read. I have a few pages left, but if it cuts out, I'll just make another video real quick. So the other kids burst out laughing. Did you see that? Jake crowned delightedly. "That was priceless." He mimicked Martine's windmill arms and plaintive voice. "Please, don't hurt it." Caught up in the madness of the moment, none of the children noticed that Martine had closed her eyes and was trembling violently. She was remembering the goose in her dream. That goose, too, had had a tiny pulse beating in its throat, and brown silken feathers that were warm to the touch. This bird's eyes slid shut as she watched it. Martine's first thought was that she had to try to save it. Her second was, how? Then a voice in her head, a voice she recognized as Grace's, said, "You know what to do, child." And right at that instant, Martine realized that she did know what to do. She had always known, all her life. Her hands ceased trembling and heated up to the point where they were practically glowing. After a few seconds, the Egyptian goose jerked and its eyelids flickered. She loosened her palms. It shook out its wings, and it flew into the darkening sky. The world swam into focus again. Her classmates were staring at her with a mixture of fear, horror, and disbelief. The color had drained from Luke's face, and he was backing away from her as if she were possessed. "Hey, how did you do that? What are you, some kind of witch?" Martine was just as bewildered as he was. In the instant when her palms were at their hottest, she'd felt a power as ancient as the earth go through her like an ocean wave, and had seen in a puff of smoke a procession of what she could only imagine were spirits, Africans in antelope masks, and rhinoceroses breathing fire. Dazed and shaky, all she could think was, so this is it. This is the gift. "What is it?" Luke was yelling at her. "Is it black magic? Voodoo? Maybe she's an Umthakathi," accused. I forgot how to say his name. I can't remember what they said to say it as. So that guy. That's the Zulu word for a wizard or witch. Someone who bewitches others or casts spells on them. Be careful. She might change into a bat or a bird." Martine stuttered. I'm not a witch." In South Africa, some people say that there is only one thing you can do with an Umkathi. They must be eliminated. Otherwise, they will do evil things. Martine cast a desperate glance down at the mountainside, hoping to see the sturdy figure of Miss Volkner coming to call them for a picnic. But no one was there. "You wouldn't," she said in a small voice. Nobody answered, but Jake took a threatening step toward her. Martine made a move toward the path that led to the main center, but the other children cut her off. She looked beseechingly at Lucy, but the blonde girl was wearing the same supercilious, oh my goodness, expression she adopted whenever anyone spoke about Ben. That's when she knew that they were serious. Martine spun on her heel and fled into the twilight, screaming for help as she went, but the band drowned out her cries. She ran down a short hill, over a nursery stream, and into an evergreen forest. Only then did she realize her mistake. Ahead of her was a daunting wall of 330 steps. She halted, panting, unsure what to do. But the clattering of feet and cries of her pursuers on the wooden bridge jolted her into action. She flew up the steps as if the hounds of hell were... Sorry, guys, but that's what it says. She flew up the steps as if the hounds of hell were on her trail. With every one, the agony in her legs increased, and her breath burned like acid in the chest. At the top was a road, but no signs. Martine knew that she wouldn't be able to keep going for much longer, so she plunged into the wilderness of yellowwood trees. Better to be lost than to be caught. Once in the greeny dark of the forest, she could no longer hear the noise of the city, just the tinkle of streams and the faint whisper of twitter of birds, bats, and snakes high up in the canopy. Clouds oozed through the branches and hung above the narrow path. Higher and higher Martine climbed. When she paused to suck air into her fiery lungs, she caught a panoramic glance of the hazy city miles below, and of the botanical gardens, now in miniature like a village made of Legos, with toys for cars. Behind her, she heard the shouts of children as they entered the forest. She dragged herself forward, wild asparagus thorns hooking her ankles. But even as she did so, she knew she couldn't run anymore. Her legs were too rubbery to support her. All at once, an arm shot out from behind a tree, and she was yanked sideways into a hollow. Martine opened her mouth to scream, just as she had in that long-ago dream, but she was so startled and breathless that all she could manage was a small whimper before crumpling into a bed of leaves. She steeled herself for a blow, but none came. Squinting up through the misty darkness, she made out the face of her captor, Ben. He wrapped his arms protectively around her, and despite being small, he was warm and solid, and she could feel the thud, thud, thud of his heart. "Martine," called Jake in a sing-song voice, "where are you?" Leaves crunched under the feet of the gang as they hurried by. Ben put a finger to his lips. He reached down and picked up a handful of small stones and threw them as far as he could. They made a series of popping noises as they landed, like tiny bullets. Luke shouted, "Over there! Come on, everyone!" There were whooping noises and the cracking of fallen branches as they pounded away down the track. Martine became aware that Ben was shaking with silent laughter. He laughed so hard that he doubled over and had to hold his stomach. "What is it?" Martine whispered. "What's so funny?" Ben straightened up long enough to point at a sign propped against the tree. The base of it was still damp with fresh soil. On it was written, "Warning, raw compost tank. Do not enter." Alright guys, that is the end of chapter 11. Here is a sneak peek for chapter 12. Looks like 2 people. I don't know who those people are, but I am interested to find out. Alright, I hope that you guys have a great day. You can go out and enjoy some sunshine like I am today. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye.